Have you checked the children? Your little mad sometimes.
Hi, I'm Chucky. Wanna play?
Sometimes that is better.
You're gonna need a bigger boat.
What's up, everyone? Welcome back to the Horror Show. I'm Cecil Laird.
So Jaime and Fuego.
And we are here to cap off all of our prom night coverage with, of course, a tier list ranking. I mean, this franchise has 6 movies. I mean, that's worth a tier list.
6, arguably. But...
Same with Critters, actually, right? Didn't we have... And Critters, ironically, I don't know if it will have... It probably wouldn't have aired by this, so I don't want to ruin it, but... A tier list recently that we did had one movie in every category, which was really an interesting tier list. So
I don't know if we're going to go that bad with this particular one, though. Or maybe. Well, it's debatable. I can see from his reaction.
I don't know that we're going to go that good with this franchise either, though.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, I don't think there's an F in this franchise, to be fair, guys. But there's most
I'll agree
definitely
with that.
like some CD.
Oh yeah, we're
like,
definitely in that prime growing up bra-sized territory in this movie.
Which, with I mean the amount of nudity in the second film, I guess that's
that second film had enough nudity to cover all the movies, quite frankly.
yeah, because that was really. Hey, I love Hello Mary Lou, but I'm very excited to start things off with the first film, 1980.
That's right, guys. We are here to do a tier list ranking of the Prom Night series. We did just finish our review series. 3 separate reviews covering 2 movies per review. That's right, there are 6 movies in this franchise that we're going to be talking about. One of them, there's some question, but
loose association.
You know, if Wikipedia is right, then we're right. So
yeah.
We are indeed. We are going to start with the original 1980 Prom Night. So here we go. Let's get into it, Fuego.
Now, in some way, like this must have been like a re-release poster, an international poster,
probably,
something different, because
it's Jamie Lee Curtis in the thing.
It just doesn't even really look like Jamie Lee Curtis very well as far as like the painted impression goes. As we talked about with this one, it's very much of its time. You know, it's a 1980 film, but yet there is a like lingering influence of disco for whatever reason, most notably on the aforementioned Prom Night and some of the music and the dancing and whatever. Aside from the creepy kids at the very beginning of this film, there's not a lot that really engages me as far as this film goes. Unfortunately, I would contend it's like a B or a C, but then again, there is like maybe more so a B because of the fact that there is an influence from this. I mean, maybe not as much as like a Black Christmas, another Canadian slasher that's held in high regard, but I definitely wouldn't go A or S for this one.
Oh, absolutely not.
Yeah.
No, I think we're in the B and C category as well. I think that this movie, it was trying to capitalize on the boon of slasher movies that were just starting to emerge and gather steam, as it were.
And also the fame of Jamie Lee, too.
Yeah, well, but only 1 year's worth of fame, which means they started shooting this probably before that happened, but not necessarily. Horror movies especially at the time, could have been turned around so quickly that this could have been turned around after Halloween came out in 1979. I don't know. But this movie, the actors were good, but the story was just kind of okay. But I think part of the issue is because we've been desensitized over the years.
Which we talked about in our review.
Yeah, I don't think it had the impact that it would have were we to have seen it at that pivotal moment in our lives, right? I mean, I was born in 80, so it came out the year I was born. I wouldn't have seen it for at least 10 years after that. But even in 1990, maybe it would have gotten to me more. But I would not say that it belongs in the lower half. I would say that this is probably a B. I would agree with the B.
Yeah, based on influence, it's probably more like a B- for me, to be fair.
I would say B- as well.
Yeah, but
I'd be tempted to make it a C, but I don't think it really earns a C.
No, it's not a C, and that's based on reputation. The fact that it found its audience.
It's even mentioned in Scream, as I learned pulling clips.
Turn around, Jamie Lee, or is that a different movie?
I think he was watching Halloween, but he does mention she lists all the movies they're going to watch. It's like Prom Night. She's like, why do all these movies have Jamie Lee Curtis in them? He even says, because she's the Scream queen.
Yeah, she was the one who a lot of people kind of coined the phrase for. Yeah, this movie's not great, but it's not not bad. I respect it more so for its influence, and that's really the most important aspect in a lot of ways. So
now let's get to the one that you and I both want to discuss, I'm sure, so much, which is, of course, Hello, Mary Lou, Prom Night 2.
Hello, Mary Lou.
We both, in the review, we talked about why, but to both of us, this is the best movie in the franchise.
Absolutely, without a doubt. And there's someone who have contended when 4 brought back the viciousness that was better, but I don't
really. Some people say 4 is better.
I saw it was on the wiki, dude. There was somebody who was like, yeah, 4 is at least getting back to the more, I don't know, cerebral and nasty sort of intentions.
It does get back
the
to the intentions of 1, yeah.
Yeah. But this one is that proper balance, as I mentioned in the review. Please watch the review also of 2 and 3, guys. But this one had that balance that I personally prefer. Art is subjective, as I always contend. But yeah, like horror and humor, when you find that nice balance between the two of them, that's my preferred, sort of approach. But yeah, I don't know. There's iconic segments in this, the chalkboard bit, various others, and including the finale, which I like the practical of the like makeup and prosthetics and whatnot. But this movie also is like a precursor to the self-awareness that horror found in the 90s, in my estimation at least.
Yeah, this again, upon rewatch, it stands out as one of the best horror movies of the 1980s. Like, it's really up there with some of the best. And yes, like you said, it does obviously take influence from like the Nightmare on Elm Street series,
very
but
so. It came
in the best ways.
4, I think.
It did. So it had 3 to draw off of, which it does do a little bit of. But nonetheless, it's a great movie. Now the question is, how great?
A or S? I don't know if I go S.
I don't know that I go S either.
I don't think so either.
Like, I don't think it's got that legendary status. It is an excellent horror movie, and that's why I think I'm okay with putting it at an A as well.
Yeah, it's an A minus for me. It's the best of the series, and it's one that I really wish more people would check out. Michael Ironside is great in this for his like just conflicted with guilt character. I think he's awesome in it. Our lead is pretty. Our geeky dude who is the one counting the votes and gets a little bit of satisfaction as this woman is trying to, and as this senior is trying to like kind of twist the voting process, so to speak. But I mean, yeah, there's a lot of great stuff in this film. It's not one of the It's tough. I would say it's one of the like best of the 80s, but like the best. No, unfortunately not. So okay. Yeah.
So let's move on to the sequel, the conclusion of the Mary Lou saga in the Prom Night.
Ms. Maloney, and this is one that
series.
Yeah, and this is one that they even say in the Wikipedia that it was supposed to be parodying the previous entries in the franchise. I think that's maybe just like assessment.
That's spin.
Yeah. That's not necessarily what they were intending with this. In my opinion, they went a little more silly than in the previous movie. But I mean, Hello, Mary Lou Part 2, it changed the course of the franchise significantly with the fact that they made it more about greasers and like that whole like 50s rockabilly sort of vibe. But they take out the religious aspect and they focus strictly on that, like, muscle cars and motorcycles and that sort of aesthetic that bands like Social Distortion became big from. So, yeah, I don't know. It's definitely not good. I would say so.
Hang on. Well, let me give my thoughts before you get. Yeah.
Sorry.
But stop giving your ranking before I give my thoughts.
My bad, man.
So yes. So it's silly. It's super slapsticky, especially for the first 2/3 of the movie, and then it completely abandons the slapstick in order to try and make it a serious ghost movie again. But by that point, you've lost so much in the telling that you've tried to do that it's just dumb. I mean, this main character guy that somehow gets cooler the worse decisions he makes throughout the movie. You have Mary Lou, who, was at first not able to do necessarily anything, and then just doesn't really need him, can start throwing spiral footballs at guys and killing them very easily.
Which
you know what I mean?
In our review, yeah.
Indeed. So it's really weird, but there's also the silliness of literally the school PA system being like the airport PA system in Airplane. That don't start up with your white zone shit again. But it's essentially the equivalent in, you know, the school PA system. So it's so off kilter. The tone isn't consistent throughout. The characters are really lame, to be honest. Yeah. And
I mean, I still kind of identify with the girlfriend who gets scorned after Mary Lou comes into the situation and basically steals her dude, and she becomes our final girl, so to speak. And she is amusing to me in her subdued nature of, you know, and I said this during the review, but I have to double down, like, I don't get mad, I bake, you know? It's like you have to do something to not dwell upon how upset you are. And I actually liked her character. She was really more engaging and intriguing, for me at least, than both Ms. Maloney and our love interest guy. So yeah, she was, it's her movie at the end of the day, but this one, like, the tonal jumps, as Cecil mentioned, guys, are the biggest, most off-putting thing, because I feel like the movie didn't really know what it wanted in a lot of ways, and so for that reason, that's why it jumps around.
So you did briefly mention what you would put it at, and I think I'm in agreement with you, because here's the thing: even though they made a lot of terrible choices, it's clear they were still trying with the movie. Yeah,
and there was a deliberance about it, for sure.
So I think C is agreed.
Yeah, I mean, it would be more so a C- for me, unfortunately, but I would still say...
But it still makes it.
Yeah, and I was entertained by some of the silliness of this film, so yeah, it's not your typical horror film. It's not straight up horror like the first film is, and it's not like straddling that line. It made a deliberate choice to be a little goofier. Mm-hmm. So for better or for worse, unfortunately.
Indeed.
Yeah.
Okay, so that brings us to part 4, which is Prom Night 4, Deliver Us from Evil.
And a return to seriousness, to be fair. Mm-hmm. Yeah, this came out in, 92, if I'm not mistaken. And this is something I mentioned during the review, but since I don't know if everybody is going to, watch both videos or whatever, but in Hello, Mary Lou, the second entry in this franchise, you basically had this dynamic of the 50s, like greaser, throwback road racer sort of situation, and you also had the religious aspect. Mm-hmm. There was that duality. They returned to a focus on the religious aspect in this, from the kill in 57 at the very beginning, where there's the cross involved, and the two kids who are skipping out of prom. It worked for me to a degree, and this was preliminary to all of the accusations, with the Catholic Church and, that priests and boys and horrible things like that. Watch the South Park episode if you, the Catholic boat, so on and so forth. But this just, even returning to just something more seriousness, something more serial, totally serial. Mm-hmm. It still didn't work for me, man, unfortunately. And mainly because I didn't like the 4 main kids who were skipping prom.
No, so, I agree with you. A lot of what the movie subsists on is your main characters, and if you don't care about them, you don't care about what's going on. I wanted to see them die, and I wanted to see them die in more increasingly creative ways, but we didn't get more increasingly creative ways. We got a peeping Tom getting killed outside the house. We got
brother, right? If I remember correctly.
We got a couple of other things, but nothing really worth writing home about. Yeah. It wasn't anything terrible, but I'm between C and D on this one. Because I don't think it had the redeeming qualities that some of 3 had, but it didn't have some of the detracting dumbness that 3 had either.
But I feel like the detracting dumbness of 3 was deliberate.
Yeah.
Whereas this one, it's okay, they were trying to get back to the roots and just something that might actually induce chills and thrills and whatever.
I'd be okay with a D, Deliver Us from Evil.
I am definitely down for a D for this one, unfortunately, because of the fact that, they got more serious, there was more gore or whatever, but I just don't know, man. It's
I get it. No,
it's not
worth
good.
it.
It's not good. It's not good.
No.
And I can at least. 3 was laughably bad at times, and I was more entertained by 3 because of those weird decisions that they made. And in this one, it almost felt like the Friday the 13th aspect, where with later Fridays, you didn't give 2 craps about those kids. You just wanted to see them die.
Just wanted to see Jason. Yep.
Yeah.
All right, so let's move on to The Club, which Technically, so here's the thing about The Club.
Yes.
This movie was released in 1994 under the moniker The Club. However, there is box art floating around from another territory, some, I believe, I would guess, Asian company based on the box art, that says Prom Night 5, The Club.
And also listed on their Wikipedia as part of the franchise.
Indeed. So take from that what you will, but we're going to cover it in this as well, like we did on the actual reviews. Now, this one was not as bad as some of the aspects of some of the others. It's a few kids. So the prom is set up at this weird castle-like place.
Yeah.
That's a really cool location, but there's
beautiful,
all these kids, but a few of them get splintered off from the group, and so they are singled out by the club, so to speak, and the rest of the people disappear, and this group of kids have to survive against machinations set up by a little demonic follower.
Yep.
Here's the thing.
And
it's the most creative of the Prom Night series.
He's the amusingly maniacal
He's kind of jokerish.
Little jokerish Loki, whatever.
Loki, right.
Yeah, and his performance impressed me, man. Like, I was very entertained. Are you not entertained?
Yeah,
or whatever?
He was funny. The kids were very shallow. We didn't get a lot of backstory about them, but they were kind of secondary. There was some
there's the one who's impotent, which we didn't even talk about in the previous review,
true.
which is a funny angle.
But there's a whole room full of torture devices for some reason, and including a guillotine that comes into play, of course.
But
there was some cool makeup effects, right?
Yeah.
There was some differentiation as people would change throughout the film. There was some nudity and some gore.
There was, and I must say, like, there is a teacher in this film who is effectively just like, he made my skin crawl. He's a gross bag,
and he's an actor that has gone on to do many things that you would definitely recognize.
Yeah.
Now the question for me, Fuego, I am between a B and a C for this.
Yeah, for sure. I might say more B-, but
do we put it on the same level as the original Prom Night, or more the same level as Prom Night 3? In that way, I'd be more inclined to put it on the level of Prom Night 3. Are you disagreeing? You would put it on Prom Night 1 level?
I'm kind of disagreeing. I don't think it's as, like, honestly, even Prom Night, the original one, getting the distinction of being a B, I think is more so based on its influence, the cult status that it found after the fact. I think I liked The Club better than the original Prom Night, to be fair.
I would watch it. So here's the thing. I would watch it before I'd watch the original Prom Night.
Yeah, it was the cagey performance from this weird dude who
it's the definition of a B movie.
Very much
right?
so. Yes,
so
direct-to-video, 90s sort of fare, man. And the fact that...
with you. I'll put
the
The Club on a B.
Somewhere, it's behind as far as influence and, all of that other stuff, but... I don't know. He was doing his best Christian Slater, man, and Christian Slater, obviously, who channeled Jack Nicholson so much. It was pretty good,
yeah.
At least as far as he went as a character.
So the final one, the final entry into the series, is one that we might have a discussion on, we might not. I'm curious to know your opinion.
Do you like this one more than me, man?
I do. I think I do like this one more than you.
Like
so this is the 2008 remake, simply titled Prom Night, and...
PG-13, by the way,
Here's
guys.
the thing. The first 25 to 30 minutes are way better than the rest of the movie, which is not saying much because the rest of the movie is when the carnage happens.
Yeah, the carnage can be absent, not really there. Same.
I think I'd be willing... Well, okay, we'll talk about it, but... so I really like the setup. It starts off super strong with this girl getting home in the middle of her family being butchered.
Yeah.
And she hides under a bed
Brittany
just in
Snow,
time
I
to
think
see...
is the name of the
just in
actress.
time to see her mom killed right in front of her.
Yeah, that's an unnerving scene.
It is. It's a really great setup because then 3 years later, now she's trying to go to prom and move on with her life, as much as she can, living with her aunt and uncle. And then the guy escapes.
And there is a callback to that initial kill later in the movie that I thought was also
Yeah.
properly effective.
Yeah. So it's actually a really good setup for these mid-2000s slasher movies that we're trying to capitalize all over the place.
Yeah.
I liked the actors well enough. They got dumber as the movie went on, which made me like them less. But the first half hour, I liked everyone. I liked the setup. I even thought the killer was appropriately creepy. He actually reminded me of the reminded me of the werewolf in The Howling, the original Eddie guy.
Okay.
So I dug a lot of the setup, and then it just kind of goes downhill.
Yeah.
So while I would probably myself, if I was doing this on my own, I might put it at a B. I would be okay with putting it at a C, if that's where you would go.
It's between C and D for me. I mean, honestly, the only thing that would push it up to a C, and more like a C-, if I'm going to be fair, is the fact that I thought Idris Elba, he did not go through the motions in this movie. Like, he's actually really good. And
he puts his effort in there.
Yeah, he always does. He doesn't half-ass that shit, man. And also, his little white assistant dude is solid. And even though I didn't really like any of the kids aside from our main girl, I thought the boyfriend was like dopey, and all of her friends or whatever. And then you've got the cliched bitchy girl who's going back and forth with a black friend of hers who was just like, yeah, I'm gonna be queen and all that stuff. So that was all just going through the motions. But Idris and our final girl, I guess I would give it a C in that regard, even if I was kind of hesitant to, because of the fact that I felt
it's
like
not
this.
D-worthy.
Yeah, no, it's not D-worthy. There are so many worse remakes that we have seen, especially in this time when everything was being remade. I mean, everything from freaking Piranha to like whatever else, man. In these mid-2000s, there were some abominations, and this is at least a little better than some of the worst. So
yeah. So there you go, guys. That's going to finish up our tier list ranking of the Prom Night series. Obviously, it follows the bell curve, which is, what you expect usually in things like this. But, the series, is it worth your time? Some of them.
How iconic really is it is the one thing that I kind of contend about this series. The fact that they kept making them, but then again, how iconic is Children of the Corn? And goddamn, they just keep making them. There's a new one coming out right now.
I think it's the Stephen King connection there, though, that keeps it alive.
Yeah.
So this one, I do think Hello Mary Lou Prom Night 2 could be considered iconic in the horror zeitgeist.
Yeah.
The rest of them, not so much, though. Yeah. So at the very least, watch Hello Mary Lou Prom Night 2 and maybe Prom Night and The Gate. Otherwise, just watch the second one and enjoy it.
The Club.
Or The Gate.
I was like, The Gate. Was that another Canadian one? I'm trying to remember.
No, I liked The Gate too, but no, I did mean The Club. Thank you.
I actually never saw The Gate 2. That was where...
Oh, The Gate 2? Yeah.
That was where the metalhead kid was grown up.
Yep.
Kind of.
And I think it had the same kid too.
Yeah, it was... Well, not the same main kid.
No.
It wasn't...
Not the dude from Blade.
Yes, I'm trying to... Stephen Dorff.
Stephen Dorff, right.
Yeah.
All right, so
anyway,
that's going to do it for our thoughts on the Prom Night series for the tier list. Why don't you let us know in the comments below if you agree or disagree with us on any of them. If you haven't watched them all, does this make you more or less inclined to do so?
Is the first Prom Night as iconic as a lot of people seem to consider? That's what I'm curious about.
Indeed. So let us know in the comments down below. If you enjoyed the video, click the like button and subscribe. Thank you so much to all of our patrons for supporting the channel like you do. We greatly appreciate it. Couldn't do it without you. But until next time, I've been Cecil Laird.
And gracias, Jaime Fuego.
And remember, stay scared.